Who will win the US-China trade war? Balancing short-term pain with long-term power. Since Donald Trump returned to the White House in 2025, the US-China trade war has reignited with renewed intensity. Early in the year, the U.S. government imposed a new round of tariffs on Chinese goods, with successive hikes following soon after. If Trump's latest tariff threats take effect on April 9th, the total duties on Chinese exports to the U.S. will exceed 100%. Combined with a refusal to negotiate or even engage, this amounts to a near-complete trade decoupling between the two countries. In response, China, unwilling to lose face, reacted swiftly by imposing retaliatory tariffs on U.S. energy and agricultural products. However, when analyzed across multiple dimensions, economic structure, technological environment, political systems, and global trust, the long-term trajectory of this trade war is becoming increasingly clear. The U.S. stands to gain, while China is facing growing structural disadvantages. First, escalation of tariffs and reciprocal retaliation. In February 2025, President Trump announced a 10% tariff on all Chinese goods, followed by a 25% tariff on products from Canada and Mexico. China quickly countered by slapping 10% to 15% tariffs on American coal, natural gas, crude oil, agricultural machinery, and automobiles. In March, the U.S. raised Chinese tariffs to 20%. Then, on April 8th, the Trump administration made its most aggressive move yet. Tariffs on all Chinese goods would rise to 104%. This tit-for-tat escalation has pushed U.S.-China tariffs to unprecedented levels. While both sides appear to be engaging in reciprocal retaliation, the actual economic impact is far from symmetrical. Second, short-term impact. U.S. consumers take the first hit. In the short run, American consumers will inevitably bear the brunt of rising prices. Despite many products being branded as American or European, their production and supply chains remain deeply reliant on China, still the world's factory for smartphones, computers, TVs, appliances, toys, furniture, and more. Take Apple, for example. While some manufacturing is shifted to India, much of the core assembly and component production still happens in China. With a 104% tariff, the production cost of iPhones will surge dramatically. Analysts predict base model iPhones could rise from around $800 to $1,200 or $1,500. Beyond electronics, countless small U.S. retailers and e-commerce entrepreneurs will be hit hard. Many Amazon and Etsy sellers rely on Chinese-made components, decor, tools, and small appliances. Higher tariffs will crush their profit margins and, in many cases, force them out of the market entirely. Rising shipping costs, limited alternative suppliers, and longer production lead times will compound the pain. As inflation and product prices climb, some American consumers are starting to stockpile essentials. Auto dealers are also seeing a surge in purchases, as buyers try to lock in prices ahead of expected hikes on imported vehicles. Third, long-term weakness. China's structural barriers in high-tech. Despite making strides in telecom, EVs, and commercial drones, China's high-tech sectors struggle to build sustainable global dominance, not because of economics, but due to systemic political constraints. Every successful tech ecosystem relies on the following virtuous cycle: stable global sales, profits from those sales, reinvestment of profits into next-gen R&D, continuous innovation and commercialization. China, however, faces a trust deficit that stymies this cycle. Democracies around the world worry that Chinese firms may be forced to install surveillance backdoors at the behest of national security authorities, a concern not without basis. Unlike Apple, which resisted FBI demands for user data. Chinese companies cannot legally reject state intelligence requests. Whether it's Huawei, ByteDance, or any other tech giant, they can all be compelled to serve the state. This systemic lack of autonomy makes it nearly impossible for Chinese companies to earn trust in global high-end markets. Even with competitive products and pricing, Western governments and corporate clients often avoid Chinese tech to steer clear of potential security risks. TikTok, despite massive popularity, has been banned or restricted in multiple countries. In contrast, low-end Chinese products like shoes, clothing, and basic appliances, which don't pose privacy concerns, face fewer restrictions. This reality cements China's role as a low-value-added manufacturer in global supply chains, with limited access to high-end innovation markets. Fourth, U.S. strategy: targeted repatriation of key industries. The Trump administration's push to bring manufacturing back home doesn't need to mean full-scale onshoring of all industries. A selective strategy focusing on national security and foundational industrial capacity is far more sustainable. Key sectors to prioritize include steel, essential for defense, shipbuilding, and infrastructure. Shipbuilding and aerospace, ensuring military and commercial capacity. Automotive, vital for jobs and strategic technologies. Semiconductors and AI, central to future intelligent systems. Pharma and biotech, crucial for public health and an aging society. The U.S. already possesses the technological and capital advantages to lead in these fields. With proper tariff protections and incentives, reviving parts of these industries domestically is feasible, especially for defense preparedness. Meanwhile, low-end consumer goods like t-shirts, socks, toys, and home decor should continue to be produced in countries like India, Bangladesh, or Latin American nations, places that can fill the gap left by China at a competitive cost. The key is not to fully localize the global supply chain, but to control the critical links. This approach safeguards national security, keeps consumer prices reasonable, and optimizes global trade flows. For America, that's already a strategic win. Fifth, global trust: China's systemic isolation. At the heart of this trade war lies a deeper conflict, a clash of systems. China's authoritarian, one-man rule not only hinders economic freedom, but also isolates the country in the global trust economy. Today's most valuable resource isn't oil, minerals, or even data, it's trust. Consumers shop on Amazon and Walmart because they trust product standards and seller accountability. Business partnerships depend on enforceable contracts and IP protection. Under China's political system, the legal framework lacks independence. Companies can disappear overnight. Data can be seized at will. This uncertainty scares off foreign investors and partners alike. Even if Chinese tech firms make real breakthroughs, they struggle to gain entry into the premium international market. Instead, they're stuck serving domestic or less developed, low-trust markets, limiting both their profits and innovation potential. This will be a long-term drag on China's ability to move up the value chain. Conclusion: in the short term, yes, American consumers will face inflation, higher costs, and small business hardships. But from a broader, long-term view, the U.S.-China trade war marks the beginning of a global economic realignment. The U.S. is using its system, capital, and trust advantage to reshape its production chain, high-value industries returning home, low-value manufacturing spreading globally. China, despite remaining the world's factory, faces ongoing structural barriers that hinder its ascent into innovation leadership. The future is becoming clear. For the U.S., the trade war may be painful, but it accelerates strategic restructuring and boosts long-term technological and security autonomy. For China, without deep political reform and a credible trust framework, it will remain blocked from the high end of the global value chain. In the end, the winner of this economic standoff will not be determined by short-term GDP numbers, but by which system can earn and sustain global trust. As for Shen Yi, the hysterical, regime-loyal professor from China Fudan University who's never lifted a finger in the real economy, his rants are entirely irrelevant.